Should any who are not entitled to these honors have the insolence to assume the badges of them, they shall be severely punished. On the other hand, it is expected that those gallant men who are thus designated will on all occasions be treated with particular confidence and consideration.
V-SPANN, America's communication network for veterans. Welcome to the Veterans Special Programs America National Network, V-SPANN. Our spotlight today shines on the Military Order of the Purple Heart. In the next 30 minutes, we're going to learn about their incredible history as well as the exciting direction that this organization is taking, including some of the many exciting programs available to you and your family. Dan Finn is the past Illinois State Commander of the Military Order of the Purple Heart and the current Finance Officer for the state of Illinois. Now, his title is impressive, but in Dan's words, he's just an ordinary veteran. Dan, welcome to our V-SPANN Spotlight.
Thank you for having me, and on behalf of the military organization, Military of the Purple Heart, I want to give you a little perspective of who we are.
And that's what this is all about. Dan, V-SPANN is dedicated to educating the men and women of the various organizations. And when we talk about the Military Order of the Purple Heart, there seems to be the notion that it's only for those men and women who were wounded in combat. Now, the membership is indeed comprised of wounded veterans.
Yes, that is correct. To be a member of the organization, we have a little higher qualification, and it's unique because of that we've all combat wounded veterans who have shed blood on our battlefields on behalf of our country. That doesn't mean that we don't reach out and help all veterans, all families. With the organization that's small, and trust me, we're the one veterans organization we'd like to see go defunct, go distinct. We don't want to see another young American man or woman ever hurt defending our great country. And that's our whole purpose. I mean, we could care less if it goes underwater. In fact, I had my oldest son served overseas 2 different tours, once in Iraq and once in Afghanistan. And I said, Ryan, believe me, when you come home, I want you to be eligible for other organizations to be a member, but not become eligible for the Military of the Purple Heart. I do not want you to shed blood for our country. I'm proud that you served our country, but enough is enough. And the Military of the Purple Heart is actually, the medal itself is the oldest medal in history of our great country. It's strictly a combat award, and it was originally established in August 7th, 1782 by George Washington, the Commander-in-Chief and the first President of our country. At that time, he was in a quandary of how to keep his men, the morale of his men going. The war had just ended. Most of the hostilities have already ceased. He was looking at a way to keep the men unified. They were suffering from poor food rations. The pay was non-existent. They were not getting support from, at the time, the Continental Congress. Many of the military wanted to actually march on the Continental Congress to say, wait a minute, enough is enough. And Washington was forbidden to give any more rank or any monetary awards. So he said, I have to do something to keep the morale of the men motivated. So he said, I have to come up with some award to keep them unified. And he came up with the Military Badge of Merit, which was established in August 7th, 1782. It was strictly a combat award and for distinguished service. So they sort of combined at the time. It worked, and it was sort of lost. It was in disarray for actually until the Civil War. It was just abandoned, even though the award was still there. It was still in existence. It was still on file. And it wasn't until the Civil War where the Navy came up with the Medal of Honor for anybody in the Navy, which actually you could almost think that the Medal of Honor was branched off from the Purple Heart, even though I'm not trying to compare the 2 awards. And I'm just saying that's significant history just to share with you. Getting back to the Purple Heart, we strictly an American award, only for combat, and it was revitalized in 1932. It was brought back to existence, and since that time, there has been approximately 1.7 million 1,700,000 members of the armed forces eligible to receive the Purple Heart. And it's the one award, strictly one award, that's not recommended. You must earn that award. Somebody can't write it up and say, oh, he's a great person or she's a fantastic person. You have to actually shed blood or be written up. It has to be identified by a medical officer, and you have to earn it. And it's the one award I could say jokingly, it's available to all, but it's desired by none.
Now, we opened our show with the words of George Washington, and by the way, those weren't really George Washington. That wasn't George Washington speaking. But in those words, I mean, it put some importance of how the Merit Award was to be received and the potential consequences of wearing it falsely.
Oh, yes. They took it seriously back in 1782. I believe his words were, if they were not entitled to this and they were to wear this award without receiving and being awarded it, they were to be severely punished. I believe that was the verbiage that the general used at the time. I guess it's a little different from nowadays when, I guess you could be anything you want to be. There was no accountability.
Mm-hmm. The service organizations that are familiar to most people would include the service organizations for any veteran, a service organization for those who serve overseas, and of course the Military Order of Purple Heart. The Military Order of the Purple Heart is probably the least known or recognized because you don't have any buildings that you pass by. You don't have any buildings that have an emblem on it. That could be a problem of why folks are not that much aware that you do provide services to veterans of all branches and their families and many, many different programs. Talk to us about that.
Oh yeah, we're very similar to all the other veteran service organizations, and you're exactly right. We don't have the buildings, we don't have the locations, we don't have the halls, but we try to do the same thing. We work in many of the same areas as the other veteran service organizations. We're in the hospitals, we're in the veterans' homes, we're in the community. We reach out to all veterans, all families, Gold Star families. We do the same thing as any other organization does, but we're just not recognizable. We're just not, you don't see us because we don't have the buildings, we don't have the signage.
And when you talk about Gold Star families, you know, that has some very strong significance that, again, not all of us are completely aware of.
Okay, a Gold Star family is one who's lost their loved one defending our country while in the service.
And identified usually with the Gold Star in the window of their home.
Yes, and if I could give you a little fact right now, the state of Illinois, since 2001, we have lost 273 from the state of Illinois since 2001. And something that's a little different from the time I served and you served as well, that 10 of those lost from the state of Illinois are women, which is it's a different day and age.
You've served the last 3 years. You've served as the commander for the state of Illinois. During that 3 years, what growth have you seen? What movement have you seen with the Military Order of Purple Heart?
I think our visibility. We're out in the community more. Our service officers are out there more. We're getting our message out there that, hey, we can help you, veterans and their families, but you don't have to be a member. You don't have to qualify for our organization. We want to help you and your family. And I know we're out there because I know there's one very respectable person in the state of Illinois who is familiar with all the veterans groups. He said that he's gone to some meetings where all the big shots get together, and he said, they keep talking about those guys in purple. They're looking over the shoulder and said, hey, we're a much bigger organization, but everybody keeps saying, have you seen what those guys are doing?
Outstanding. What is the mission statement?
Our mission is to get out there and educate the public, promote Americanism, patriotism, and help all families and veterans, and just be good citizens, role models. We also have programs for first responders, firemen, policemen, emergency personnel who get hurt in the line of duty. We try to work with them. We have scholarships, very similar to all the other organizations. In fact, probably a lot of people don't realize the national organization sponsors 83 scholarships a year, and each one is $3,000. The state of Illinois, ourselves, we sponsor 10 each year at $2,000.
And that's information you don't know.
Information that people
and
don't know.
And that's the type of information that you can expect to get here on V-SPANN. There's a lot of exciting things now. You're not just giving up your position, you're moving on now to serve in a different capacity.
Yes, but we're not big on titles. We may just change chairs. We still work as a group. We're just a bunch of GIs who served our country. A lot of us, believe it or not, I didn't know if I knew what the Purple Heart was until I got wounded. And even after that, I wasn't sure what it was. And we continue to help all. And we communicate. The title is just a word. We're veterans helping veterans and their families.
And a very prestigious award indeed. When we return, you're going to meet the current state commander of the Military Order of the Purple Heart, who's going to tell us about some initiatives and future directions that this prestigious organization is taking. This is V-SPANN.
If you're interested in pursuing a career in radio or television, look no further than the Illinois Center for Broadcasting. The Illinois Center for Broadcasting offers hands-on training in radio, TV, and web design. They offer financial aid for those who qualify and accept veterans' education benefits, including GI Bill Chapter 33 post 9/11. If you have any questions about the GI Bill Chapter 33 post 9/11, call the Illinois Center for Broadcasting at 630-916-1700 and ask for a financial aid representative. If you do not meet the GI Bill requirements, there's another option, known as the Veterans Retraining Assistance Program. For more information about the Veterans Retraining Assistance Program, call 1-800-827-1000 or visit the website at www.benefits.va.gov/VOW or call the Illinois Center for Broadcasting, Lombard Campus at 630-916-1700 and ask for a financial aid representative.
Our next V-SPANN guest is the current Illinois State Commander of the Military Order of the Purple Heart. By building on past successes, he's working on several new initiatives, including building awareness within the veteran community, especially at the college level. Please welcome Commander Vince McInerney. Vince, you've got a heck of a task in front of you. You've followed Dan Finn, who has led the organization for 3 years, and now you're picking it up and trying to build awareness. Where do you start?
Well, it's multidimensional, actually. You mentioned the college initiative. We appear at the various colleges with our Wall of Honor, and we've been to Carbondale, Southern Illinois University. They have between 700 and 800 veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan who are students there. They have a veterans organization. They have a Marine League that supports them down there. We've been to Moraine Valley. Okay, they have 500 plus veterans at Moraine Valley Junior College in Palos. I think we've also shown that we support the graduation of some of our future soldiers. We were at Olivet Nazarene this past summer actually, for graduation for cadets who are now second lieutenants. And we want to continue that going on to this year and the rest of the year. We'll be going back to Moraine in November. Some of the high schools have asked us even to come by, show our Wall of Honor relative to the not just the Purple Heart, but how we salute our veterans from Illinois that have served in Iraq and Afghanistan.
What are the expectations, Vince, when you attend a college to talk to the students about the Military Order of the Purple Heart? What are your intended expectations?
Well, when we get there, they're basically a military appreciation. They appreciate what we're doing. So I think they focus on our past service, and we try to complement that by bringing the wall that salutes the Second World War veterans, the Korean War veterans, the Vietnam veterans, and obviously the last 4 panels of our wall have pictures of the soldiers, sailors, Marines, Coast Guard have been lost in Iraq and Afghanistan from the state of Illinois. So we feed off each other, basically. I think some family members show up that are Gold Star families at a lot of these events that have lost a loved one in those conflicts. So And I think another issue we have to address is that we'd like to appear not only at the college and high school venues, but at dedications for soldiers who lost their life, picnics. We were at a picnic a couple months ago in Countryside for a family member who lost a close family member, and they were very appreciative that we were there. I think another thing is that we try to follow through with our letting people know what we do at the Veterans Hospitals, at the Veterans Homes. We attended a function within the last year at Sinise's, not Sinise's restaurant, a restaurant that run by the Sinise family in Lockport, and they saluted the veterans from Manteno, who were in the Veterans Home, and we assisted them in that salute. So it's all encompassing, is what I'm saying. It covers a lot of venues. We've been to 53 venues from June of last year to June of this year. Okay, and the ongoing ones coming up especially during the Veterans Day week. We have about 5 different things we're committed to.
Okay.
So it's a combination of they're very good to us, veterans appreciation or military appreciation, and we reciprocate.
Okay. Relative to the wall, now we're familiar with the Vietnam Memorial Wall. Talk a little bit more about this Wall of Honor. When did this start within the organization?
It started a few years ago, I think at least 4 years ago. We were the first one to have one for the state of Illinois, I might add. One of the other veterans organizations has one also. And we felt that it was necessary to salute not only the present day people in harm's way, but also the past wars. And I especially like to key on the Korean War veterans, because they're a prominent part of our Purple Heart organization, and I think a lot of them have been forgotten. So it's not just present day. I think we have to look at not only Vietnam, but the Korean War veterans. We're losing a lot of them. They're in their late 70s and early 80s, and I think it's only appropriate that we salute them also.
Now, you had a function at Navy Pier recently.
We had a function last year. It was called the Vietnam 25th anniversary reunion of the initial 25th anniversary reunion, which I think it might be confusing to your viewers, but I think it would have represented Bill Curtis, former WBBM, and also he does a lot of shows on cable. He was our MC at the banquet, but they had the Vietnam moving wall there, and our wall was right nearby, our Wall of Honor, and it was a privilege to be next to that Vietnam moving wall, which represented over 58,000 veterans who lost their lives in Vietnam. And they put that wall up in less than a day. They secured overnight with guards. They secured ours for us too. They were very nice to do that, where we could leave it overnight. We were down there for 3 days at Navy Pier, and we got a tremendous response, not only from the people of Chicago, but the surrounding suburbs and states, would it be Indiana, Michigan, or Wisconsin, what have you. So, and we met some interesting people from all different branches of the service.
Earlier, when we were talking with Dan Finn, we were chatting about the fact that the visibility of the Military Order of the Purple Heart is not that prominent because you don't have any buildings. But your contributions go beyond just working with the wall. You have monetary contributions that you get involved with other service organizations. Talk to us about that.
Yes, we've given to the TBI clinic at Hines Hospital. We've given to Jesse Brown. We also made a donation. They had a concert for veterans downtown this past year and the year before, and we made a donation. We also donate to the veterans' homes. I think we've also donated specifically to certain wards. In my case, I'm in 9 East at Hines every week for some IVs, and we've donated some things that they need on that ward directly, and it's called the oncology ward. Everyone's there. 90% of the people are getting chemo treatments. And I think when you direct your contributions towards a specific ward, you don't have to worry about administrative issues as far as the money not being spread to where you want it to go. So we also do the blind clinic. We made donations twice to the blind clinic. And Dan Finn's chapter has a dinner every year at the Mayfield Club on Archer Avenue in Chicago for 25 blind veterans that are brought down from Hines Hospital, who are either going through an 8 to 10 week program, and then we have the dinner with them for Christmas. It's usually the second week of December.
Do we have a vehicle that helps people understand, for example, if I wanted to have this traveling Wall of Honor come to my event, what would I have to do to cause that to happen?
They would go to our online, number, and we provide them. If they give us proper notice, we'll be there. Very simply.
And it's all based on volunteers.
Right. We volunteer. There's the only paid members in our organization are national service officers, our adjutant, and our headquarters in Springfield, Virginia.
Okay.
Because he encompasses a lot of work, but 99% of the Purple Heart members are volunteers.
And do you get active participation?
Well, yes, and from various veterans organizations. I'll give you a case in point. I mentioned the Korean War veterans. They have an honor guard that they do presentations at different functions of the flag. They also do funerals. And I can tell you a beautiful story, if I may interject that, about the Korean War veterans who do that for us. They're Purple Heart members, but they're also Korean War veterans members. And they were at a funeral for one of our members, and I was there, and we arrived early. Another funeral was in progress for a veteran, and they didn't have the 21-gun salute. Our Korean War veterans volunteered to do the salute without any notification before our member came in to the cemetery.
Out of respect for the veteran.
Absolutely.
And not having to worry about any form of bureaucracy.
Exactly.
It's absolutely amazing. Well, we're going to be hearing a lot more about what this organization is doing, and something that it has done just recently, as a matter of fact, by bringing on the National Service Officer. We're going to find out exactly what this officer does, how many people he's helped, and we might even hear a little story of success. All of that when V-SPANN continues.
Hi, I'm Ernie Scatton, Education Director here at Illinois Center for Broadcasting, the downtown campus. And I am also a U.S. Navy veteran. I served in the Navy from 1987 until 1991, and it was 4 of the best years of my life. They made me grow up, and they allowed me to do things that I normally wouldn't have been able to do, and they let me tap potential that I didn't know I had. But knowing that I had something to do with defending this nation or giving back to a place that has given so much to me and my family, it made me feel good. One day, as I was on my way to work, I heard a commercial saying, if you want to be on the air, go to Illinois Center for Broadcasting. And I said yes. I called that day, I went that night for my test, and I passed, and in a week I was in school. I've never looked back. I walked out of school into a 50,000 watt station, ESPN 1000 here in Chicago, and I didn't leave for 9 years. I owe all that to ICB. I guess to sum it all up, the Navy prepared me for life, but ICB prepared me for my future and what I have now, my future in broadcasting.
This is V-SPANN Spotlight. Well, we're talking with our state commander for the Military Order of the Purple Heart, Mr. Vince McInerney. And joining us now is an Iraqi veteran that's helping out the Military Order of the Purple Heart to get the message out, especially to young veterans and their families. We want to please welcome Jason Goldsmith. Jason, welcome to V-SPANN. You come to us with an interesting story. Being an Iraqi veteran and wounded, you came back home. How did you find out about the Military Order of the Purple Heart?
Interesting enough, in 2004, like you mentioned, I was wounded in Iraq, and severe enough where I had to go to Walter Reed Army Hospital. I was stationed there for 14 months, going through rehab and through treatment programs. And one day, Commander Finn and his wife came to Walter Reed Hospital, and I was from Ohio at the time, so I had no affiliation with the Illinois department. Introduced himself, talked about some of the programs I offer, and we just kind of kept in touch. As it turned out, in 2009, I relocated from Ohio back to Chicago for educational purposes. Through social networking, it's a beautiful thing. Facebook, Dan and Christina actually found me on Facebook and reached out and reconnected to me, and we kind of reconnected. Had a Memorial Day parade as the first event I actually did with the wall, and just been involved with the program ever since.
Now, you mentioned that that you learned about the programs that they offer. Prior to that, did you have any idea that the Military Order of the Purple Heart offered any kind of programs?
Yeah, no. That's what's the reason why we're trying to create awareness so much now. Because even as a service member, as a recently discharged veteran who was a Purple Heart recipient, I didn't know what the programs were, and that's why we're trying to get the word out to the recently returning, veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan now.
Okay, now your involvement with the Purple Heart is not like the other members. By the way, the other members, as I understand, any member of the Military Order of the Purple Heart, they don't pay a fee to be a member. You've already paid that fee.
Correct, yeah. If you shed blood on the battlefield, that's payment enough.
That's right.
We'll take care of you from there on out.
But you've come into the organization in a very different capacity.
Correct.
Explain that.
I actually work as a National Service Officer for the Purple Heart Foundation. I guess one of the main problems veterans of all eras, peacetime, any era has, is the problem with VA entitlements. I would love to say I didn't need to have a job, but the VA system as a whole, it's even though it's gotten better, it's still not to the point where it's good enough. So we have people like me who advocate for the veterans from start to finish in the claims process. And that can be, service-connected compensation for injuries or illnesses, that happen on active duty, pension for a combat era veteran, death and burial benefits, or even education. Those are all things that I facilitate with the veteran, to the actual VA and represent them through that process.
Now, it is not just a standalone organization in this sense that your office is at the Veterans Administration Hospital. You're at Hines. So it's not just standalone. You interact with other service organizations on an equal footing, so there's no turf areas.
Yeah, we all, work in collaboration. We have the same mission to help the veteran and their families to, make sure they get their entitlements. We may do things differently, but the end result is the same, to help that veteran and their families.
Now you come to the table as the National Service Officer. You see a lot of cases. What are you seeing to be the predominant need for service?
Definitely the service-connected compensation. With the recently returning troops, I'm having a lot of issues with the TBI, the PTSD. You got troops doing 4, 5, 6, 7 deployments, a lot of exposure to trauma, very severe, PTSD cases. So that is definitely the prevailing issue that I'm filing for. With the Vietnam era veterans, I also have a lot of Agent Orange related cases. They've kind of opened the doors for those and allowed some new issues. Heart claims are one. A lot of heart claims I put forth to the VA, and the VA's done from the overall perspective, done a pretty good job and gotten those adjudicated accurately. There has been some errors, but from the overall standpoint, they've done a decent job.
Now you act as an advocate, Jason, for the veteran who comes to you from any branch of service. What do you have available to you to help you when you run into obstacles?
I guess I have resources. We have a chain of command like any other organization. If I have situations, because I don't claim to know everything, I want to be resourceful where I can get the information if I need it. So we have resources out there where I can, actively look up a current regulation or look up a new law that went into the state. So there's resources out there that allow me to be, a more competent and efficient service officer. So we do have programs like that available.
You mentioned social networking. Do you see something that today that Vince and his team can expand the notion of getting this word out quickly? Because with social networking, it's a very first communication network.
Exactly, and that's kind of exactly the way I was on board. So I would say continue to do the Facebook, possibly create pages, for the Purple Heart, for the state of Illinois to have, veterans like that page in there. They can follow that page. Twitter, make tweets about some of the events we're doing, or maybe the communities we're going to be in as far as events to help, bring that awareness and bring that outreach even further. Because the thing is, with the new age, the veterans, we're not going to the chapters. We're not really, going there to drink, a few beers and mingle. We need to be connected with via social networking, and that's the way it is for us to continue to thrive. We have to, adapt to that.
And the notion that the organization is only available to people who were wounded in combat is to me a real tough hurdle to cross. What would be your first point of getting people today to know this is not the case?
Yeah. Well, the membership side is exclusively for Purple Heart recipients, but for my service that I offer, obviously I offer once again to veterans of all areas, any branch of service, whether you have a Purple Heart or anything. I'm going to help you as long as you served honorably. The biggest thing with me is being in the facilities I work at. I have 3 different locations: North Chicago, Hines, and the regional offices. Most of my traffic is referred to me from other avenues within the hospital. So I communicate to those social workers or those physicians or those doctors and say, hey, I am not just here for the Purple Heart recipients. I'm here for any veteran who's looking to seek their entitlements. So getting the word out is basically critical, that because people walk by and say, oh, Purple Heart, I don't have one of those. I have to continue walking. So I've changed things on my sign. It says helping all veterans, and all very big, bold print, so it's very noticeable.
What would be one of your most rewarding success stories?
Honestly, it's the, well, just recently I just won this claim. It's called a clear and unmistakable error, Q claim. A Purple Heart veteran was wounded very bad in Vietnam, was separated with a 10% rating for his left knee and 10% for his jaw, all through the shrapnel. I went back and reviewed the C file, and it was a clear and unmistakable error. So I had this veteran increase from 20% to 60% with a retro to 1970, and also 100% for his post-traumatic stress. That he's going to get over $200,000 in retroactive pay.
That's a pretty significant.
That's a game changer for him. That's a life changer. I mean, this guy was struggling to get by, and now he's going to be somewhat set, from a financial aspect.
Using this as an example, Jason, okay, that is remuneration for what occurred. Beyond that, those problems still exist. So your services aren't really over.
Oh, no. The services, I mean, I have a very large client base, which I'm able to, manage due to the fact that I try to honor and empower my veterans to because the biggest concern is the length of time it takes for the veteran's claim to be from start to finish, which the VA has developed programs to kind of cut through the bureaucracy and the red tape, but they always wanted their status, and rightfully so. I was the same way as I did my claim. But in order for me to effectively serve new clients, I have to empower them to look at other avenues too. They can check their status. They have e-benefits sites. They have an 800 number, and those things allow you to check your status, where I can be actively engaged, representing other veterans at hearings or interviewing to file new issues. I'm sorry, I got off on tangent. I totally forgot what your question was.
Well, you answered it. But where I was going here was with Vince. When we got out of the service, I wasn't wounded, so wasn't aware of the Purple Heart. But these services were not available when I came out, that I know of.
They were available, but not to the same degree that they are now.
That's right.
That's your point, I believe.
Yeah, and the VA has changed. I have to give them credit, even though I was, as a veteran, I was a basher. I hated the VA because what they were doing to me, but now that I work within the VA system, they have made leaps and bounds progress. We're not there yet, or they're not there yet, but they have made progress, so I'd like to at least commend the VA on that.
Do you see the distinction where the VA is embracing this more than perhaps treating it as an intrusion?
I think so. I mean, I think the VA does, in my opinion, does offer some lip service type programs, but in the end, creating the awareness around the issue, always having society keep an eye on the VA, what's going on, those create like watchdog programs where the VA has to act. They can't sweep it under the rug. And that's what's going on now with the veterans returning home. And that's mainly in part due to Vietnam veterans like yourself with the treatment you received. So, I mean, as an Iraq veteran, I definitely appreciate, what you guys have, have done for us and in my generation. And you guys have made it sure that it's never going to happen again. So, as from an Iraqi veteran, thank you for that.
Jason, if I had a magic wand right here and I gave you this magic wand, what would you do with it?
I would create about 5 more of me because we are in demand. Unfortunately, a lot of veterans coming home. I mean, it's a very busy job. You're never a dull moment. So that would be my answer. Maybe 6.
Okay. And Vince, same question to you as the new commander for the Military Order of the Purple Heart. What would you do with your magic wand?
Well, I think Jason's hit on some great issues here. I think the service officer program is the key to us. We support them. We follow through with their needs. We try to expand on their facilities if we can. I think another issue relative to this is that Jason covers 3 different areas, and his point is well taken, that he's splitting a lot of time between three different facilities. And I also think that we try to support not only the veterans but their families. And I'm seeing from General Shinseki, who spoke at our Purple Heart National Convention last year, and one of his top assistants this year at our Purple Heart Convention in Arizona, they're trying to cut the time. So I think that from our standpoint, we want to cut down the time, to 4 months, 6 months, where in some cases it takes 9, 12, or even more.
2 years, actually,
Right,
from
in
the
some
regional
cases,
office to
yes.
process a claim.
And I think another issue that's important is that some of these claims are being farmed out to other states who don't have as much or as many claims as we have in Illinois. I had a claim that went through Omaha, Nebraska. I know of another veteran who had one go through Phoenix, Arizona. So if they can farm those out to locations who are not as swamped with claims, that'll help us out too.
Well, I don't have a magic wand, unfortunately. None of us do. But we do have leadership, and we do have organizations. And with those two together, we can make a difference. And one of those organizations that we're spotlighting today is on the Military Order of the Purple Heart. And we want to thank our 2 guests, and in fact with Dan Finn, who started this off and making this information more available to us. Now, for information for you on this great organization, visit their website at moph-il.org. This program was made possible through the studios and future broadcast professionals at the Illinois Center for Broadcasting, the Lombard campus, where broadcasting careers begin. Visit beyonair.com for more information about a career on radio and TV. You're watching the Veterans Special Programs American National Network. This is V-SPANN.